I like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. And I wish there was some perfect harmony in this world, but there isn't. There's just me, sounding like a goose farting in the fog. Well, boys and girls, it's Saturday morning. It's the last Saturday of the month for me. I know it's not the last Saturday of the month for you. It's just I'm going on holiday next week, so I won't be here. So I'm going to update the Vanguard, see how well that's done, and probably give you my thoughts on this strange Saturday morning. But first of all, I need a coffee, because we all know Scruffy likes a coffee.
It's coffee time! Coffee, 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 coffee!
I need that. It's no good being unfit, you know. And when you've got 3 floors in the house and you come from the bottom to the top, I'm bloody knackered when I get up here. It's bloody crazy. And then you got talking to crazy, you got bloody crazy horse who sits here freaking buying everything on bloody Amazon. Got to run up and down the stairs for the Amazon parcels all the time.
I'd buy that for $1.
I bet you'd like to have my life. But that raises a question before we get into the updates. What life do you want? Can trading give you that life? Have you got the ability for trading to give you that life? Or are you just a chancer?
You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it.
Well, let's have a look at my life, shall we? I live in the country. Do I live in the best estate? Well, the best village? Nah, probably not. But there's only a few houses here. I'm surrounded by greenery. You know, I walk 25 feet out of my house. You'll not see a house for as far as the eye can see. Now, some people would think that's idyllic and wonderful. Well, it is. Till the snow comes. And then you're snowed in. You know, we get snowed in every year. You know, snow comes because it's on the top of the hill, but it's also in part of a valley. You can't get in or out the village. So you're buggered. So how did that affect my life? Well, I had to sell my lovely Mercedes car, which I absolutely loved. You know, I've had Mercedes quite a long time. But in the snow, they are terrible. So when I came to live here, figured that out in the first winter. Tried it on the second one. That didn't quite go to plan. So for this one, I've ended up having to sell the car and buy a 4x4. So now I drive around the Discovery. So my life changed to fit the circumstances of where I live.
Isn't that logical?
You know, I wanted to keep driving my E-Class Mercedes. But I can't. It's a beautiful car. Wonderful car. Does everything I want it to do. But it's not capable for where I live. So I had to get something that would replace it. But I wanted something that was nice, and that's where the Discovery come from. So sometimes you've got to think what's actually around you all the time. Now, this is kind of a metaphor as to where the charts are. And I'll get onto this in just a moment. Now, let's have another look at my life. Now, from the outside, people think it's wonderful. You know, I go on holiday all the time, going away next week. You know, I'm off to the Caribbean, break up on Friday, and that's me done. Soon as I'm back, I'm only back a few weeks, and then I'm going to Benidorm for 9 days because I'm going to meet up with some of the Scruffy Squad out there. I'm back from that. I'm having November off, but then I'm going on a mini cruise, and again, some of the guys from the squad are coming. So we're having like a get together, and we're going to catch up with Marcel over in Amsterdam when we've got the opportunity. So salute to you, my kid. So people would look at that and think, wow, he's always on the move. He's always traveling. I am. But because I have a moral sort of obligation to help guys in the squad, I don't get much time off. I still work when I travel. So it looks glamorous, but it's still actually a work day. It's glamorous for Winky. She gets the day off. So you can look at that. But then you look at other things. And you think, well, if you do that, you must be loaded. No, I'm not. Not at all.
Are you sure?
You know, I used to be. Used to have lots of money, you know, but not from trading. My business gave me lots of money. And when it was at its height, we were flying really high. And that was actually really damaging because I came from nothing. Literally, I grew up on a council estate and I grew up in what's called the winter of discontent. I still remember that. Now, in the UK, for those who don't live here, the newspapers are talking about the autumn of discontent because we literally are the freak show of the planet at the moment. It is ludicrously horrible in the UK at the moment. If you are proud to be English, you instantly sort of noted that you're either a racist or a fascist and you're on the far right just because you support England and you don't want your culture destroyed. Personally, I can't see where they're coming from. I just think they do lally. There was a report came out today that you're not allowed to call a husband and wife because you're naturally assuming one is female and one is male, and they mightn't be. The world has gone fucking mental, right? Who cares, right? If you get married as husband and wife, I was brought up that way. I was brought up with boys and girls. If you're something in the middle, fine, doesn't matter, right? Just don't ram it down people's throats. Let people be who they are. And if they want to be doolally and think they're a cat and call themselves Felix, let them be a cat and call themselves Felix.
As awesome as a Thundercat.
You know, as long as Felix doesn't push that down the throat of somebody who just wants to be John. That's my feeling. But that's because that's old. I come from old school. I've got old school values. This is right. This is wrong. Now, I transpire that over into the charts. Now, what I'm driving at with that is, now, if you think about the world as it is, how does that world affect you as a person? But also, how do you affect that world? You know, well, if you go to the chart, the first thing you need to do is understand how that world affects you. So the first thing that you're going to have to ask yourself is, can I afford to live in that world? So I live where I live because I choose to. Right? It's not because I have to and it's all I can afford. I choose to live here. Why? Because I can afford to live here.
I can afford it.
But this has come from years of hard work and even hardship. When I lost the lot, it took me a long time to get to here. All right. In fact, it took me 8 years to get to here. You know, 55, I was 47 when the business closed. It took me 8 years to rebuild my life. You know, and over the last couple of years, I've had a good life. So essentially, it took me 6. Anyway, cut long story short, what I'm driving at is, if you're looking at a chart, and let's just say it's the Dow, can you afford to live in that world? Well, unless you've got a big account. No, you can't. So you just don't trade it. You have to live somewhere else. So where's cheap? But safe. Eurodollar. That's pretty cheap. You can go Eurodollar. So you live in Eurodollar. Now the next part of this, how you affect Eurodollar and Eurodollar affects you. Well, what can you do with Eurodollar? Well, you can trade it responsibly. And if you trade it responsibly, it'll look after you. The same as you're living on an estate. If you're a responsible sort of tenant or homeowner in a little street, keep your garden clean, wash your car, say hello to the neighbours and one thing and another. Everybody likes you being around. They talk to you. They'll admire your car if you keep it nice. They'll admire your garden if you keep it nice. What if you're a dickhead? Screaming ball at the neighbours all the time. Keep an untidy garden.
Who'd be stupid enough to do that?
Justify, stupid.
Well, nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody will deal with you. Nobody will shun you. And eventually you'll get pushed out. Right. Now you're on the charts. You're looking at a 1 minute chart. You've got about 10 indicators on it. Looks feckin' horrendous. And there's so much noise. You can't get engaged with the chart. Because nobody wants to know you. But if you look at an hourly chart, it's had a couple of indicators on that don't take up a lot of real estate. Maybe it's an oscillator at the bottom and a moving average on the chart. you can actually see the wood for the trees. And the world slows down, and you can have a conversation with the chart because it's not so fast moving. But you can see what's going on in and around it. Which if you were living in a street and you're just watching, you can see what's going on around the street. So you are affecting the world you live in by slowing down and keeping it nice. And because you keep it nice, you're under the radar. People just let you get on with it. That's my take on the charts. You need to look at it from a... I try and tell you these little stories so you look at it in a different way. Because everybody's just... And I get it all at the same time. And you'll hear me say something. Money will see you out. Right? It's a term that I picked up from my grandmother. And it basically does tell the truth. Money will show the real person. Now, somebody who is a nice person, generous, and wants to do well in the world, money is a vehicle to help that. So give to charity, they'll help their kids, and they'll try and help themselves because they know if they make themselves better, the people that are around them will become better. They're the people I want to talk to, because they're good people and I've got all the time in the world for them. Then you've got the other ones who just in it for them. They couldn't give a monkey's about anybody else. And you'll know the type. They're the type that wouldn't part with the smell of a fart because they paid for the ingredients that made it, right? That's the type of person they are, Barstool managers, I call them.
Who is he? He's an asshole, sir.
And when I was in industry, and even prior to that, when I was in the blue chip, you always have people that'll be there telling you how to do your job. But they can't do jack shit, And I've told you, I used to drive my Mercedes, and I used to always have a Mercedes outside the factory. Joanne and I had one each. And what would happen is, I'd always get people telling me how to run my business. And they used to jump in that car that wouldn't even make it to the end of the street, right? Very opinionated. Or if you worked in a factory, you'll always have that one worker that's always giving it this, and if the brass is about, it's like, I'll give a fuck what they think. I'll say what I like. All this sort of thing. Nobody wants to know that person. Because if you're associated with them, you're tarred with the same brush. Well, I certainly don't want to know them type of people. And I've got no time for them. They're just arseholes. So they can fuck off.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And it's as simple as that. And I get people saying that to me all the time. You can't tell me to fuck off. Cry. But the very people who say that are the arsehole who deserves to be told to fuck off. Because they are absolute dickheads. Right? Case in point, I had a horrible day in the office yesterday. Horrible. And we're reintroducing Knobhead of the Week. Knobhead of the Week. Now, I was going to nominate Haircut. But it's unfair because it's not his fault. I broke a cardinal sin yesterday on a Friday. So I'm going to nominate myself. I am Dickhead of the Week. Why? Because I broke my rule. My rule is I don't like to trade Friday. And if something's worth under 5 pips, I try not to go into it. But Haircut asked me to look at a chart. I looked at the chart. I analysed the chart. The actual the breakdown was correct, and it did resume back to it on its bigger picture. But in the short term, it went heavily against me. Or did it? It only went 25, 30 pips against me, which in the grand scheme of things is fuck all, right? But because it was a scalp, it's exaggerated against what I was looking to get. But because I stage backwards and I have a rule set to get me in and out of trades, it kind of saved my bacon. But it was a bit of a bloodbath for me because I made the priestly sum of £3 because I had to buy my way out of the market. And that's just one of those things. It's one of the mechanisms that I use to get in and out of the market. Now, some people disagree with that. Personally, I don't give a fuck. I don't tell you how to trade, so don't tell me how to trade. All right? And if you don't like it, well, fuck off. It's that simple. All right? Because trading is where you live. And you live in the environment you choose. I choose to live in a DCA environment. You live in your environment. And that's what I'm driving at all the time. But here's the kicker. I get pulled all the time. All you do is win. Well, I didn't. Yesterday I got slaughtered, right? And you know what? The same people that tell me, complain about me winning, were now complaining that I lost. Ah, you shit. You should have called that.
What is wrong with you people?
You can't win. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So there's only one measuring stick. And that's whether or not I've got money in the bank. Well, that's what we're going to have a look at right now.
Money, 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 money.
So, give me a minute. I'll pause the camera while I log on.
Well, we're waiting.
So, I'm a big believer in little and often. And what I mean by little and often is I'm constantly feeding over into this. So, I've got loads of playouts from prop. Don't bother too much with prop at the moment, you know, but I still get a sort of few £100 every couple of weeks, £1,000 a month, that sort of thing. And I dump it in here all the time. I'm constantly feeding it in with little sort of, well, little bonuses, shall we call them. The surplus of my salary ends up in here. Now, as you can see, we're currently at 132,323. This is my trading fund. This is where I draw money if I need to sort of rehydrate an account that I've made some mistakes on, or the surplus of my salary ends up in here. And if you look at the transactions, if I come to transactions, you'll see they're just little all the time. So I make £100, I dump it in here. I make £150, I dump it in here. I make £200, I dump it in here. Right? And it all adds up. And I do it over and over. And look at the dates on them. So I'm constantly feeding in all the time. Right? Now I do track it on this spreadsheet. Now you can see, started 1st of January 22, because I had to go back to see when this actually started. And it was under £500. All right. Now we're at 132,000, sort of thick end of sort of 3.5-4 years later. Because I try to do about 30 grand a year. 20 to 30 grand is what I look to try and achieve. You know, I did move money into this, so you'll see on the spike there's an uplift a little while ago. But my next goal on this is 140,000. Now we're already at 94.5% of that. So if I can get that by the end of the year, I'll be more than happy. All right. So what's the moral of the story when you look at these things? Well, it's about, let me just pull that back. It's about little and often all the time and using your money to be effective. Now, the portfolio and investments that I have is I use globals. All right. You've got this one, which is an all cap. It's a little bit more expensive, but the value of it was so cheap. Right. When I say expensive, I mean in fees. It's 0.24 or something. Whereas this one's very cheap. This one takes into account all like the S&P 500 and one thing and another. And this is kind of everything else, but they're both global. And this is what's called an ethical and, well, I call it emerging markets because it's got a good amount of emerging markets in it. But it was cheap per unit, not necessarily cheap in fees. So when I started this one, and I did that from £200 January this year, I mean, that's up to 19 grand now on its own from that initial £200. And what I did with that £200 is I just opened up a separate set of props, which is what you've just seen. And I keep buying them, get the money out of it, and if it gans tits up, I don't give a fuck. I've already got the money out. You know, as long as I get the initial investment back, anything over and above that goes in here, which is what you're seeing now. And I'm really pleased with it. You know, I'm going to keep it running. Which raises another train of thought when we're talking about our habitats, where we live and how we live, etc. Now, a lot of people will go into the charts, and what they'll do is they'll go, right, I'm £1 a point, I've got to get £30. right? So you're looking for a 30 pip move, but I'm only going to put 10 pips on, right? Well, first of all, the market will come and take you 10 pips in a heartbeat. Okay? So why would you do that? Stop has to be in the right place. So I keep my stops and my profits completely separate. I look at a stop and I ask one question. Can I afford it? All right? I don't care about a 10 pip tight stop. I think that's ludicrous. What you have to do is you have to look at certain areas of the chart where you live and then put it in a safe environment. Now, for me, it's behind a swing point and a level. And it's either on a 15-minute chart or an hourly chart, depending on the product that I'm looking at. Now I can calculate the distance from where I'm roughly going to get in to where I'm wrong. And where I'm wrong is not a monetary amount. It's where the market has told me I've got the direction wrong. Because direction is king. And I'll see. Now, if that happens to be 50 pips away and I'm a pound a point, I know that costs 50 quid. Right. Don't want to pay it. Can I pay it? Can I afford it? Well, if I've only got a £100 account, no, I can't. So your leverage, because you've over-mortgaged your house now, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back, or the donkey's back.
Donkey!
So what you have to do is leave the stop where it is, but half your position size. Can I pay 25 quid? Not rightly sure about that. Okay, half it again. Can I pay 12.5? Well, yeah, I can pay £12.50. It's all right. It's not the best in the world, but I'll pay it. All right. Well, that's what your stop is. You've agreed to that cost. Right. Now you get out on the other side as much or as little as you need. Doesn't matter. I work to a principle of I want greater than 10 times. So if I'm on a pound a point, I want greater than 10 quid because I'm 10 timesing that position. And if I put a second position in, I'll look to 10 times that as well. But not only will I look to 10 times that, I'll look to try and get it to where the exit point of the first order is. So that one that's sitting behind is now no longer 10 times in itself. It might be 15 or even 20 times in itself. So each individual position is working for itself inside a bigger picture. See, I do this through what's called an ROI perspective. You lot will do it through, which is a well-proven failure, risk-reward. The problem with risk-reward is it sounds great on paper, but in practice it just doesn't work. And that's why I get the twist and complaints, because 95% of what you see is based on RR. There's only about 5% based on ROI. And isn't it funny how only about 10 to 5% of people survive this game? Maybe what you're looking at is not suiting you. Maybe you've got to look at it from a different perspective. Maybe you have to live in a new village.
What?
Something for you to think about. I'll cherish your thoughts on that. I definitely think a different way. Am I going to change? No. Do I care about people who stick it in? Not in the slightest. Right? I only care about one thing. One. And she sits right there.
Big tits. Huge tits.
As long as I make her life happy, that means my kids' life are happy, which makes me happy. That's the only thing that I'm bothered about. And I like where I live. Do you like where you live? We shall see. See you all in the next one.